Hey everybody, I'm Anel Ceballos. I'm here with Jonathan Frias, and today we have a special guest with us. We are joined here with Sophia Song. She plays for the Manchester Mystics. And how are you doing, Sophia?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here today. Like we really appreciate it. So I know that you played basketball at Mark Keppel High School, and
Mhm.
then you went on to play at UC Davis, and then now you're playing, professionally. So
Mhm.
what made you realize your love for the sport?
I mean, it kind of just came naturally, I think. I started at a really young age, probably when I was 5 or 6 years old. And I remember just all my friends playing it. Little did I know that my dad had this like deep passion for basketball. So when I told him that I wanted to play, he kind of just went like full sports dad mode and was already signing me up for like private sessions, private trainings at like, in like fourth grade. And usually you do that in high school. So that's kind of how like my love for basketball kind of started.
I love that. I wish my parents put me in sports. Like I always tell them, I was like, why didn't you guys ever put me in sports? I
Yeah.
just I played basketball too, and I was really bad at it, but it's okay. But I know you won four consecutive conference titles for UC Davis, right?
Mhm.
How was that feeling for you?
I mean, it's like, I mean, it was such an unreal feeling just because like my class made history. So me and my best friend, we were the only ones to ever do it, or the first ones to do it at least, to win 4 years in a row. And I think it's just years of, well, one, I think it was just coming in at the right time. My program definitely, we were at our peak. And so just coming in at, um, to play on such a good team, I think I definitely got really lucky. But I think it definitely could, I could go back and look at my high school career. And I mean, I won league 3 out of my 4 years in high school as well. So it was just, I've definitely been on winning ways, leading up to my college career. But I mean, it was such a surreal moment when it really registered to us like, whoa, like we made history. Like who would have thought?
Yeah, you have an amazing record. But we see many times like a lot of women athletes, they can do such great things, but I feel like we find a lot of times where they get discredited, like they have a lack of recognition. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you weren't taken seriously as a basketball player?
It's funny you say that because I think I was more like discredited or looked over or disregarded in that sense. More so for my race, not so much for the fact that I was, you know, female playing basketball. Um, I think it was just growing up in an environment where, I mean, I constantly played at the highest level, and there wasn't a whole ton of Asian American basketball players. So I remember I would walk into big national tournaments, and I'd literally be the only Asian player in the gym. And so having to kind of grow up in that environment. But I do have to say, like, especially with my university, they always did such a great job of really promoting our women's basketball team. I mean, our team was more winning than the men's side. So I would definitely think that they would do that. Um, but I think it was kind of like this on even in my high school too. The women's side was more winning than the had a more winning record than the men's side. But it's just really nice to see how I think women now are getting more of that recognition that we deserve. Now I think it's just more of a conversation of like, okay, where can we get to where it's equal pay and stuff like that. But uh you definitely have seen this progression of like what like just women's sports in general becoming a lot more popular. I mean, we just saw that in the most recent uh with the NCAA March Madness. the women's game was way more exciting than the men's game, and we had a record high of views. So I think it's really cool to see that, just throughout my basketball career, how, women's basketball, I mean, just women's sports in general has, I think with the help of social media has gotten a lot more recognition. Um, but I would definitely say that in terms of like kind of feeling like not on the same level as everybody else, I think it was just because I was looked down upon over the years for my race, just because there wasn't a whole lot of us. But yeah.
So,
Sophia, oh
oh,
sorry,
keep
Anel.
going,
I just
Jonathan.
wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
So you discussed like your race was something that you felt like that's where it came from. Was that something you felt in the moment, or looking back now you acknowledge it now?
I think now more than ever, I acknowledge it. Looking back, I think at the time I didn't really realize that, whoa, I did face a ton of, I mean, it wasn't just racism, but a lot of different other things. Um, and I mean, I think it's just because of this, not just the rise of like Asian American like racism and hate in the States, but just like that. I mean, because of that, I was like, I've been reflecting on, I was like, wow, like, I've played some of the best players in the nation, and they've said things to me during games that I'm just like looking back, like, wow, that was so racist. And I kind of just didn't say anything about it. It was just, whatever. Keep playing the game, right? So yeah, it definitely registered more now during this time.
So being one of those first players, like you said, with the limited amount of Asian players that there were around you, do you feel like it's just good to have that representation in? Like, do you feel pressure that people are going to be looking at me, and or does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I never really thought of it so much as like there might be more eyes on me. I kind of took it as like, I know they think I'm, just because I've heard from trash talk, I'm not just assuming things, but I know there's just a stereotype that like Asian athletes are, you know, we have to work a lot harder to be considered athletic, or like we are considered softer or weaker in a sense. Um, but it kind of just like changed my mindset where like, okay, like there's two ways you can go about this. So I really attacked and was like, I'm an underdog here, and I'm gonna, show this girl up. I'm gonna show this team up. But I would definitely say, because I was one of the few Asians, I definitely feel like I've been given a platform. And I wouldn't say a bigger platform than the player next to me, but just, a different platform for, so many young Asian American girls that are also looking to play, even overseas. Like, it's possible. I think it's only me and another girl. I think there's only two girls in our whole entire pro league that are Asian. So, just up until now, like, if girls were to be like, oh wow, like there's an Asian American basketball player, playing overseas in Europe, then that's also just as uncommon. So I would definitely say that like I didn't feel like there was like a pressure so much, as in like, I don't know if this is exactly answering your question, but um yeah, that's kind of how I would take that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think other like Asian women can look at you and be like, that's an example for me, and I love that. Like you're you're fighting all the stereotypes and stigmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did speak on the equal pay. Cause when I look at equal pay, or like the fact is that, you know, women athletes don't make anything as close to what male athletes, especially in basketball. And to me, when I see that, I feel like, what are they trying to say? Are they trying to say that women aren't as good as male athletes? Like, what do you think when you see that?
Yeah, no, I it's just, I think it's just all how do I say this? it's long term over the years. What is this called? It's this term where it's like racism isn't really in the people, it's more in the institutions, and like just how our society has been, um, how our society has just grown to be. And I think with the whole equal pay, I mean, I don't think it will ever be as equal, just because unfortunately, male sports in general, they do bring in a ton more viewers and money. So I understand that maybe we would never get to like that same level of equal pay, but equal pay in the sense that those players in the WNBA right now are getting salaries that are, but they're not getting the max amount of from ticket sales and all that, and that's kind of what we're fighting for. Like, obviously we understand that, there's a big viewer gap, in terms of numbers and all that, but
Yeah.
NBA players, they really reap the benefits of all those viewers, and it's the max that you get from a contract, right? But then the women's players, they have all these cuts that are taken out of their salary, and they're not getting the max for what, like in terms of like viewers and all that. I don't know. I can't really explain it that well because I don't really I don't know the right terms exactly for it, but that's kind of just like how it works. But that's kind of just like my whole view on like equal pay and all that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that because I'm studying for journalism, so I really want to like work in, the sports media and things, and we see a lot of the times how like male analysts have a big platform,
Mm-hmm.
especially like on ESPN. Like we have so many
Yeah,
shows like First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman, and then we have Skip and Shannon Undisputed, and then we have Inside the NBA where there's like four, I think 4 or 5 male like analysts,
yeah.
and to me that can be very like discouraging. So do you think it's important to have more women in these shows?
No, I mean, so you can definitely tell that over the years they've been including more women um, in not just the shows, but talk shows and interviews. You see now a lot more women are interviewing the NBA players after games, and I think that will definitely that would definitely help. Bringing in more women in sports. I think by not just like us viewers seeing that, but also just making more available careers like that for women to come in and be able to do that. So I think with more jobs opening in that area, and like just making it more of familiarity of like women in sports, like physically on television for people to see, like that will just help,
Yeah.
in terms of bringing, uh, just making it more common.
Yeah. Jonathan, I do want to ask you a question. I know you watch sports and all of those shows. Did you ever notice a difference in like the number of male analysts between the women analysts?
Yeah, absolutely. I do acknowledge that like it's mostly males in there. But one thing that I do appreciate, I don't really watch the ESPN shows as much, but I'll talk from the Fox Sports perspective, like you mentioned, Undisputed. Um, so their moderator is Jenny Taft. So based if you just watch that show Undisputed, you see, oh well, she's just a moderator. But in fact, if you dig deeper into her career, she's actually one of like the headliners for the college football segment. Like she's the main reporter for the main game. So I do appreciate like if you dig a little deeper that they do more. You just have to like because like everyone has a niche. Um, for Jenny Tapp, hers is just college football. Another show that I do enjoy watching because we're talking about like sports shows is Colin Cowherd, The Herd. He has he's joined every show by Joy Taylor, and she has her own podcast as well where she not only it's her own podcast where she discusses and analyzes certain sports topics. So there is a growing platform, and I think nowadays it's just going to get bigger because the amount of media everyone digests.
Yeah, and I agree. And I hope like we see more, like more and more shows, especially.
Mhm.
But I want to talk about maybe like this topic that some people like don't really like. It's about lowering the rim for women's basketball. How do you feel about that topic? About lower the rim so that it can be more entertaining? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's just a big insult to the women's game. Um, you'll be surprised that, like, I mean, even if you've just seen the high level of basketball being played in the national tournament just last week, like, it was way more exciting than the men's championship game. And the baskets were at the same level and it was the same game being played, but it was just the only difference being, the gender. Like, I really think that's just at this point being, disrespectful towards the women's game, I feel like. So yeah, that's kind of my sense on that.
Yeah. Jonathan, what about you? Since I know like I don't know if you watch the WNBA, but what do you think about that?
Uh, so for going off what Sophia said, like we just finished watching the tournament, right? You know, you had the men's and the women's, and I gotta tell you, like the men's or the women's championship game was so entertaining, and just seeing, I'm gonna just shout out the Pac-12 schools because they did great,
Yeah.
and it was two Pac-12 teams competing for the championship, and I couldn't take my eyes off. It was just so good. So I think the saying lower the rim is it's kind of bogus, to be honest, because if you're a true fan of basketball and you see how the women play, they're playing it the right way, and it's entertaining to watch.
And they're very skilled. So they don't even need these dunks like people want, like they can do so
Yeah.
much more than that. So I agree with you guys. But what is what do you hope to see for women athletes or just women in general in media?
I mean, I honestly just hope that we continue to get that recognition. And I think now more than ever, it's gonna happen just because that I feel like awareness in basketball and women's basketball, especially, and women in sports, it's been on the rise. And I feel like even this year, my whole social media was just blown up, just on women and like women in general. And I feel like it's never going to really go back down. It can only go up from here. So just continuing to see that recognition and get more people to watch women in sports in general. I would just love to see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's already progressing more, and I feel like there's people just need to get on it because it's so amazing that these women. What I don't like is like they compete, and it doesn't matter what their gender is. They're just as good as anybody else, and they need the credit that they deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
but I think that was all for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mhm.
And yeah, thank you so much. Hey everyone, thank you for watching the latest episode of the Poly Sports Podcast. Make sure you comment and leave a like below. Also, if you like this content, make sure to subscribe. And to keep up with Sophia Song, we'll leave a link down below where you guys can know her upcoming games and where to watch her games. Thank you again. Bye.